Welcome everyone and thanks for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most astonishing stories in the world of rare coins, a story that revolves around an ordinary-looking 1981-cent coin that, due to extraordinary circumstances, bizarre minting mishaps, unexpected errors, and the fascinating possibilities that surround its creation, has been valued by collectors at an unbelievable $34 million, and as we begin this journey I want you to imagine holding a simple, copper-colored penny in your hand, feeling its familiar weight, smooth edges, and the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln staring back at you, because this single coin, small enough to disappear in a pocket and common enough that most people wouldn't glance at it twice, becomes a symbol of mystery, rarity, historical intrigue, and the incredible way a combination of chance, human error, mechanical malfunction, and the unpredictable environment of the United States Mint can transform the most ordinary object into something unimaginably valuable. And as we explore how a 1-cent coin from 1980 reached a staggering worth of $34 million, we'll uncover the layered history behind the minting year, the inconsistencies that plagued production at the time, the errors that specialists believe could have occurred during the creation of this specific piece, and the possibilities, some proven, some theorized, some still open to debate, that have elevated this coin from pocket change to treasure. And to do that we must start with the big question every viewer asks when hearing claims about mind-blowing coin values. How can a penny minted in 1980, a year in which millions upon millions of pennies were struck, be worth a fortune? And what kind of mistake or anomaly did this coin carry that made it so far removed from its ordinary brothers and sisters? And to understand that we have to go back to the conditions and minting realities of the era, because the year 1980 stands out in numismatic circles for several reasons, one being the transitional period for machinery, as the mint was dealing with aging equipment while simultaneously preparing for updates that would later reshape modern coin production, and aging machinery often leads to misalignment issues, strike inconsistencies, feed malfunctions, planchet variances, and other subtle technical mishaps that can combine in countless ways to produce rare mint errors, some of which are so unusual they appear only once in the entire production run, creating a one-of-a-kind coin whose rarity becomes immeasurable, and when rarity cannot be measured numerically, its value becomes tethered not just to scarcity but to uniqueness, and uniqueness is something collectors crave because it turns a coin into a singular artifact of minting history, a piece that cannot be replaced or reproduced, and the 1981 cent valued at $34 million is believed to be precisely one of those one-of-a-kind anomalies, a coin formed by a perfect storm of deeply unlikely minting errors layered atop one another in a way never seen before or since, and one of the central theories numismatists discuss when examining what could cause such a leap in value involves the concept of planchet irregularity, because before a penny is struck it begins as a blank disc called a planchet, and sometimes a planchet that was never meant for a penny somehow enters the production line, and although pure copper was phased out in 1982, coins in 1980 were struck on 95% copper and 5% zinc planchets, but mistakes happen, and occasionally the mint accidentally feeds a planchet meant for a foreign coin, a denomination with slightly different dimensions, or even a planchet of incorrect metal composition into the hopper, and if such a planchet is then struck with the standard Lincoln cent die, the resulting coin becomes an anomaly with a composition unlike anything expected for that year, and if tests confirmed that the legendary $34,001,980 cent contained metals not used for domestic cents at the time, then instantly it becomes a chemical outlier, a metallurgical rarity, a piece that collectors will fight over, because composition errors are some of the most thrilling and sought-after mistakes a coin can possess. And this possibility alone could command astronomical prices, but composition isn't the only theory, because strike errors also play a major role in elevating a coin's value. And when specialists study extremely valuable pennies they often look for double strikes, off-center strikes, or coins struck on defective or misaligned dies, and the 1980 penny in question is rumored to have multiple strike anomalies that line up so precisely they appear intentional even though they're not, creating a visual pattern unique to that single piece. And among these theories the most compelling is that the coin may have been struck by dies that were out of phase with each other, meaning the obverse die and reverse die were not synchronized at the moment of impact, resulting in details shifted, ghosted, or duplicated, giving the coin a surreal layered appearance that instantly signals to experts that something extremely rare occurred, and there are even whispers that this particular coin might display a dramatic double die on Lincoln's portrait combined with a rotated reverse, something rarely seen together on the same coin, and the combination of more than one major minting error exponentially raises the value because collectors understand how unbelievably low the odds are that multiple unrelated errors would appear in perfect unison on a single piece, and even rarer is the idea that these errors manifested clearly and dramatically, because many minting errors are faint or subtle and require magnification to appreciate, whereas coins that show bold, unmistakable deviations from the standard design instantly rise in desirability, because they visually tell the story of a moment at the mint when something went completely off track. And considering the 1980 pennies' rumored conditions, collectors imagine a coin that shows exaggerated doubling in Lincoln's profile, unusual thickness in the date, distortions in the lettering of the motto, and an oddly rotated Lincoln memorial on the reverse that creates a mesmerizing effect when you flip the coin. And then there are theories involving die deterioration combined with clogging, where parts of the die became worn or filled with grease or debris, causing some sections of the design to appear missing, blurred, or incomplete. And if this particular coin showcases partially missing letters, or faint areas near the rim, or distorted memorial lines on the reverse, that further supports the idea that this coin is a hybrid error, not just a single mistake but a cumulative product of multiple failures interacting to create a masterpiece of rarity. And in numismatics it is often the case that the more unusual the combination of errors, the higher the coin climbs in value. But aside from physical errors, there's also the possibility that this coin's value soared due to its provenance, meaning its ownership history, because sometimes a coin gains value not only from what it is but from where it has been. And if this coin was once part of a famous discovery, an important collection, or a historic hoard, that legacy can dramatically raise the price, especially if experts believe it was preserved under conditions that kept it in nearly flawless shape despite its age. And condition plays a major role as well, because even the rarest error coin must be well preserved to reach the highest possible valuation, and a 1980 penny displaying multiple minting errors but graded at a near-perfect level would be practically priceless, especially considering that most cents circulated heavily and acquired scratches, wear, and discoloration. But if this one somehow avoided circulation entirely, remaining crisp, lustrous, and visually stunning, collectors would view it as a once-in-a-lifetime survival. And survival rarity is just as significant as mintage rarity, because even if only one erroneous planchet entered the system, the chance of that coin surviving unstained, unbent, and unworn over decades is microscopic, which adds another layer of value. And as these factors combine, composition anomalies, multiple strike errors, planchet irregularities, die deterioration effects, rotated reverses, double dies, preservation rarity, and historical provenance, the value of the 1980 penny climbs into the realm of the unimaginable, reaching the point where $34 million doesn't merely reflect its worth as a coin but as an artifact, a phenomenon, a numismatic legend whose rarity defies logic. And when collectors discuss it, they often emphasize the incredible improbability that a coin like this could ever exist in the first place, which only enhances its mystique, because in the world of rare coins impossibility often becomes the driving force behind astronomical valuations. And that is exactly what appears to have happened with the 1980 penny in question, as the numismatic community remains captivated by the rumors, theories, evaluations, and authenticated test results surrounding it, fueling debates, raising eyebrows, and inspiring collectors worldwide to re-examine every penny they own, hoping to discover even a fraction of the rarity that this piece possesses. And as we wrap our exploration of this extraordinary coin, I want to thank you all for joining this deep dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in coin collecting history. And if you enjoyed discovering how a humble 1-cent coin minted in 1980 gained a mind-blowing $34 million valuation due to its remarkable errors, extraordinary circumstances, and impossible rarity, make sure to like this video. Next, 1987. Today we're exploring a story that has captivated collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who simply can't believe that something as small and familiar as a 1-cent coin could secretly be worth an astronomical fortune. And in this case we're talking about the incredible tale of the 1987 1-cent coin that has stunned the numismatic world, with claims of a value soaring to $14 million due entirely to its array of unusual errors, striking mistakes, and perplexing minting anomalies that set it apart from the billions of other pennies produced that same year. And as we unravel this extraordinary mystery, we're going to walk through how a coin minted in massive quantities could somehow hide a version so rare and so exceptional that professional graders, collectors, and enthusiasts alike have spent years speculating about the errors that could elevate this small copper-coated circle of metal to legendary status. Because when a coin reaches such unimaginable values, it doesn't happen by chance but by a combination of rarity, condition, unintentional mint blunders, metal composition mishaps, die deterioration effects, striking pressure inconsistencies, planchet errors, off-center impressions, double details, Transitional metal mix-ups and other extremely unusual features that transform an ordinary penny into a priceless numismatic anomaly that any collector would dream of discovering in loose change, tucked away in an old jar, buried in a forgotten box in the attic, or even handed over unknowingly in everyday transactions. And as we go through every possible reason this 1987 1-cent coin could command a staggering $14 million, we'll peel back the layers of history, speculation, and documented minting oddities that have surrounded coins from this era, because the 1987 production year, while generally known for consistent copper-plated zinc coins, still experienced enough operational fluctuations, die fatigue, machine recalibrations, and planchet inconsistencies that rare anomalies were able to slip through unnoticed, beginning with the possibility of an ultra-rare double die obverse where the details on Lincoln's portrait or the lettering surrounding it exhibit a dramatic split image effect caused by a misalignment during the die creation process, an error so significant that it immediately separates an affected coin from ordinary circulation pieces. And when you combine a bold double die with razor-sharp details, flawless surfaces, and an almost impossibly high grade preserved by chance or intention, the value skyrockets far beyond conventional expectations. But the story doesn't end there, because this legendary 1987 cent is also believed to exhibit the kind of composition error that results from an accidental use of leftover planchets from previous years. And although 1987 should strictly consist of copper-plated zinc planchets, there have been rumors and unverified reports of extremely rare full copper transitional planchets or even foreign metal varieties being struck during this period due to planchet bin contamination or mismanagement as the mint shifted and reorganized equipment. And if even a single one of these transitional or off-metal planchets carried through the striking process, the resulting coin would immediately stand out in weight, sound, and even color under close inspection, drawing immediate attention from experts who know that transitional planchet errors can command life-changing sums at auction, especially if they are unique or nearly so. And this leads to another fascinating possibility behind the $14 million valuation: the potential existence of a major off-center strike so perfectly dramatic yet complete that collectors would fight endlessly to own it. Because off-center strikes that retain full readability of the date and mint mark while shifting the entire design off the planchet by a wide percentage are not only beautiful in an accidental, artistic way but extraordinarily rare when paired with a clear date. And the combination of an off-center strike, transitional metal error, and double die effect would create a coin so unprecedented that it could be considered a once-in-a-lifetime find with no comparable example in existence. And beyond that, there are additional minting phenomena that enthusiasts suspect may play a role in pushing the value into an 8-figure range, such as broad strikes that flatten the rim, double strikes that stack two distinct impressions on one planchet, die breaks that leave molten metal-filled raised scars known as cut errors, or even the elusive struck-through errors where foreign materials like grease, cloth fibers, or slivers of metal interfere with the design, leaving ghostly missing details that collectors treasure for their uniqueness. And when you imagine a single coin exhibiting not just one but multiple perfectly executed accidental errors, preserved flawlessly from the moment of striking, never spending years clinking around in pockets, drawers, machines, or harsh environments, instead resting forgotten somewhere safe until someone decades later realized its hidden importance, the story becomes more believable because many of the world's most valuable coins were found unexpectedly in change, in collections passed down through families, or in old rolls kept untouched for decades. And this 1987 cent could very well be one of those coins whose value lies not only in its errors but in the mythology and intrigue that surround it. For every serious collector knows that minting mistakes have shaped the hobby for centuries, driving prices into unimaginable territory when rarity, desirability, and flawless condition intersect perfectly. And the intrigue surrounding this 1987 penny is further fueled by whispers of a near-perfect strike quality despite its errors, meaning the coin may display full sharpness in Lincoln's hair, beard, cheekbone, coat, and the delicate features within the memorial reverse design if applicable, combined with a lustrous surface that survived all these years without the scratches, scuffs, or discoloration that most circulated coins suffer, enhancing its appeal tenfold. And when expert graders encounter a coin with errors so dramatic yet surfaces so pristine, they consider it a masterpiece of accidental minting, elevating it to a status where collectors might be willing to pay sums that seem unbelievable to everyone else. And as we continue to imagine how such an extraordinary piece could achieve its legendary $14 million value, we must consider the psychological and historical aspects too, because collectors chasing unique items are sometimes willing to pay far more than market norms to secure a coin that cannot be replaced or duplicated. And the 1987 cent in question, with its cocktail of errors, could truly be one of a kind, meaning that whoever owns it possesses a piece of history frozen in time. A tangible representation of a moment when machines, dies, metal and timing aligned in the most extraordinary way, and even though billions of pennies were minted that year, only one with these exact characteristics may exist, making it infinitely rarer than any normal coin regardless of age or mintage. And as stories like this spread, they ignite excitement and curiosity among everyday people who begin checking their pocket change, their old coin jars, inherited collections and forgotten stashes. Because the allure of discovering a life-changing treasure hidden in plain sight is irresistible, and the possibility that a simple 1987 penny could be worth $14 million inspires countless people to learn more about minting processes, numismatic terminology, error types, and the subtle details that transform common coins into astonishing artifacts. And that curiosity fuels the entire world of coin collecting, driving demand, increasing auction competitiveness and pushing rare pieces to new heights as collectors continue searching for the next unbelievable find. And as we wrap our minds around the endless possibilities of how a coin like this gained its unimaginable value, we recognize that the story is more than just a tale of errors and accidents. It's about the thrill of discovery, the magic of rarity, the romance of history captured in metal, and the idea that even something as ordinary as a 1-cent coin can hold secrets powerful enough to change someone's life forever. So if you've enjoyed exploring this incredible mystery and want more deep dives into rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable numismatic stories, make sure to like, share and subscribe so you never miss another fascinating journey into the world of coins worth big money. Next. 1975 D. Today we're exploring the astonishing story of the 1975 D 1-cent coin that collectors claim can reach a jaw-dropping price tag of $32 million due to a combination of mysterious errors, unusual striking conditions, minting anomalies, and speculative possibilities that have kept the numismatic world buzzing for years. And as we unravel this tale, you're going to see why a tiny piece of copper-plated metal from decades ago has sparked so much fascination, controversy, and excitement. And why even seasoned collectors stop in their tracks when they encounter certain 1975 D cents that show strange flaws and unexpected features, suggesting something went very wrong at the Denver Mint that year, something that turned an ordinary penny into a treasure people dream about finding in pocket change. And it starts with understanding how the 1975 D cent was supposed to be minted, because once you know the intended design, composition, and die characteristics, you can truly appreciate just how wild some of these errors are. Since the standard 1975 D cent should be struck in bronze with clear lettering, a sharp Lincoln portrait, crisp edges, and well-centered devices, yet the valuable error pieces show anything but normal characteristics, and collectors suggest that a rare combination of die wear, die breaks, planchet flaws, striking pressure issues, incorrect metal mixtures, and misalignments might have occurred to create a handful of coins unlike anything else from that year. Starting with one of the most talked about possibilities, which is the existence of a dramatic double die obverse on a 1975 D cent, since doubling on the date, the word liberty, or the phrase "in God we trust" would instantly raise market attention. And while official records don't confirm any major double die, whispers in the community claim that a one-of-a-kind piece with bold spread doubling exists, the sort of doubling where every letter appears shadowed and multiplied, giving the coin an unmistakable three-dimensional intensity that only dramatic die misalignment can create. And if such a coin were actually discovered, it would be considered priceless, because dramatic doubled dies often reach astronomical values, especially when unique or undiscovered by mainstream catalogs. But then there's the possibility of a tilted die strike, where the upper die might have been misaligned at an angle during the strike, creating coins that show uneven pressure, resulting in odd texture, missing sections of design, distorted rims, ghosting around Lincoln's profile, and even crescent-shaped flat zones where the metal did not fully fill the die cavity, because misstrikes like that are not common in normal production, and when they occur on older coins with high demand, they attract huge collector attention due to their rarity. And beyond that, collectors have also speculated about the existence of 1975 D cents struck on transitional planchets, meaning blanks that should have been for earlier or later years where metal composition differs. For example, if a 1975 D penny had been accidentally struck on a steel planchet from decades earlier, or even on an experimental alloy intended for testing, it would instantly be one of the rarest error coins in existence due to its mismatched weight, color, and magnetic properties. And coins of this sort have sold for millions at auction due to the sheer improbability of such a mistake making it past quality control. And then there are Rumors of off-metal errors where some 1975 D cents may have been struck on dime planchets or even foreign coin planchets, since the United States Mint occasionally produced coins for other countries, and when leftover blanks get mixed with domestic ones, the resulting errors become spectacularly valuable because they combine rarity with clear diagnostic mismatches such as smaller diameter, clipped edges, overshot designs, incomplete strikes, or unusual coloration, each of which dramatically increases collector interest. And speaking of spectacular errors, we cannot ignore the possibility of major die cracks, cuds, and retained die breaks that appear on some 1975 D cents, since die deterioration could cause raised, vein-like metal scars across the coin stretching from Lincoln's portrait to the rim, or even creating large missing fields on the reverse where chunks of the die broke away, leaving irregular shapes that appear almost volcanic. And such defects, when large and dramatic, can turn an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-generation find, especially if the break is unique to a specific die and produced only a handful of coins before being replaced. And another feature that adds excitement to the 1975 D mystery is the presence of significant struck-through errors where foreign materials like cloth fibers, wire fragments, grease, metal shavings, or even minting debris might have been trapped between the planchet and the die during the striking, imprinting foreign textures or missing design sections onto the coin that make it unmistakably unique and often extremely valuable. And this type of error tends to produce bizarre yet fascinating distortions that collectors adore, because no two struck-through errors are ever exactly alike. And then there is the possibility of broad strikes and off-center strikes, where the coin might have been minted without the retaining collar in place, causing the metal to expand outward beyond its normal diameter, or struck with the planchet positioned too far left or right, resulting in a partial design that can range from 5% off-center to dramatically 70% off-center, and in rare cases a fully readable date combined with a major off-center strike can fetch huge sums due to its uniqueness and visual impact. But alongside these more common minting issues, there are also the more obscure and intriguing theories about why a 1975 D cent could reach a speculative valuation of $32 million, including the idea that one or two specimens might have been test strikes, experimental die trials, or pieces struck using prototype hubs before the final design adjustments were approved. And trial strikes are often destroyed, making surviving examples unimaginably rare and sometimes valued beyond typical price guides, which leads to another possibility involving secretive mint experiments where alloy tests or striking pressure calibrations were performed using real dies but non-standard planchets, producing coins with slightly unusual coloration, surface texture, or metallic resonance that only intense scientific analysis could properly identify. But to collectors, rarity plus mystery equals massive value, especially when only a single specimen is rumored to exist. And then there are theories that a handful of 1975 D cents might show anomalies caused by feet or finger scrapes, which occur when the mechanical arm that feeds blanks into the press scrapes across the die, creating deep gouges that transfer onto the planchet as raised lines, leaving scars across the field that dramatically affect appearance. And these errors sometimes bring enormous prices when they appear in unusual places or in extreme form, because they highlight a very specific moment when mint machinery malfunctioned. And another layer of possibility involves die polishing errors, where excessive polishing to extend the life of a worn die removed or altered parts of the design, producing missing details, faint lettering, ghost-like portraits, or dramatically softened features. And while minor polishing marks are common, dramatic cases are prized because they show the mint's attempt to stretch machinery beyond safe limits, producing coins that stand out as extraordinary outliers from the normal population. And yet another possibility fueling speculation is the idea of multi-strike errors, where the coin might have been struck more than once, either intentionally or accidentally, producing overlapping impressions that create doubled, tripled, or even quadrupled images, in severe cases making the coin look like multiple shadows and outlines are fighting for dominance across the design. And these multi-strike coins sometimes become the crown jewels of private collections due to their dramatic appearance and extreme rarity. And on top of all these tangible minting issues, there is also the historical, cultural, and psychological layer contributing to the 1975 D cents mythic value, because the 1970s were a period of economic uncertainty, political tension, and shifting minting practices, and coins from transitional periods often attract attention since collectors associate them with change, unpredictability, and the idea that hidden treasures may still be waiting to be found in ordinary circulation. And as stories spread across coin forums, collector groups, and auction gossip circles, people began speculating that one or two extraordinary 1975 D cents must exist, possibly locked away in private holdings, or long forgotten in inherited collections. and that speculation alone fuels demand because the idea of finding such a coin triggers the same excitement as discovering a rare painting, a misprinted stamp, or a lost artifact of historical significance. And enthusiastic collectors began imagining combinations of multiple errors on a single coin, such as an off-center strike combined with a doubled die and a planchet flaw, which would be such an improbable chain of events that if a coin like that existed, it would be valued not just for its rarity but for its near impossibility, making it a once-in-history treasure worth millions. And as rumors swirl, values inflate, stories spread, and excitement grows, the mythical high valuation for the 1975 cent becomes a symbol of how extraordinary the coin collecting world can be, where small objects carry enormous stories and tiny minting mishaps can turn into multi-million-dollar legends. Today, as we dive into one of the most surprising, astonishing, and almost unbelievable stories in the entire world of modern coin collecting, a story that begins with something as simple as a humble copper-plated coin but quickly unfolds into a tale of rarity, mystery, and multi-million-dollar value. So sit back and get ready, because today we're exploring how an ordinary-looking 1981 1-cent coin, a piece so many people have overlooked for decades, has become the center of attention after collectors uncovered specific errors, anomalies, and possibilities, some rare, some nearly impossible, that have pushed its potential value as high as $26 million, and this unbelievable number has caused collectors around the world to search through old jars, boxes, drawers, and forgotten piggy banks in hopes of stumbling upon a hidden treasure they never realized was right under their noses, because the 1981 1-cent is far from ordinary once you begin peeling back the layers of production issues, minting inconsistencies, transitional details, striking problems, planchet mistakes, and experimental variations that occurred during that era, all of which together create an environment where a coin that should be worth a single cent can suddenly transform into one of the most valuable small-denomination coins ever discussed among numismatists. And what makes the story even more fascinating is that 1981 was one of the last years before the United States Mint transitioned fully from the traditional bronze composition to the copper-plated zinc planchets introduced in 1982, which means the 1981 production cycle existed at the edge of a major transformation, and with transitions come mistakes, experimental test strikes, planchets accidentally reused, leftover blanks inserted into presses, dies that weren't originally intended for certain metals, and combinations so unusual that the few survivors instantly gain legendary status among collectors who understand how difficult it is for such anomalies to escape both quality control and circulation. And that's exactly the type of background that feeds into the idea of a 1981 1-cent coin capable of commanding a price tag of $26 million, because when you consider the layers of complexity and all the ways something could go wrong in a minting environment on the verge of a major compositional shift, it becomes clear how unique errors from this time period have the potential to be among the rarest ever documented. And some collectors believe that certain 1981 cents were struck on experimental zinc planchets years before they were officially introduced, while others argue that an extremely small number might have been struck using leftover bronze planchets that were incorrectly alloyed, causing unusual weight discrepancies and coloration that could make them one in a billion rarities. And then there are theories about double denomination errors, where a cent might have been struck over the faint remains of a dime planchet or another denomination entirely, a mistake that would be nearly impossible under normal controlled conditions but not impossible during transitional uncertainty. And even though very few of these possibilities have been confirmed with absolute certainty, the rumors, documented examples from other years, and the timeline of mint experimentation all fuel the belief that a uniquely flawed 1981 1-cent could exist, and if such a coin shows multiple combined errors, like an off-metal planchet, a double strike, a rotated die, a misaligned strike, a clipped planchet edge, or even die cracks that formed in unusual patterns, that coin could become not just rare but historically significant, and historically significant coins break price records as fast as collectors can raise paddles during auctions. And this is exactly why the 1981 1-cent coin has become such a hot topic, because even though millions were produced, only a microscopic handful are believed to have the right combination of characteristics that elevate them into the stratosphere of value. And whenever you have a coin with the potential to be a test piece, a transitional mistake, or a layered error involving multiple production issues, you have a coin that isn't just collectible, it becomes a piece of minting history, a physical artifact that represents a moment when the machinery, the operators, the production schedule, and pure circumstance aligned in a way that produced Something rare enough to be considered priceless, and because collectors know that errors from transitional periods often go undiscovered for decades until someone happens to check an old roll or collection, it fuels the excitement and the possibility that a single overlooked 1981 cent sitting in someone's old drawer could completely change their life. And stories of such unexpected finds only make the coin's legend grow even larger, with tales of people accidentally discovering coins that weigh more or less than they should, coins with strange metallic resonance when dropped, coins with odd color variations that came from inconsistent alloying, coins with faint secondary impressions from a previous strike, and even coins showing ghost-like outlines of different denominations, all of which are indicators of minting mistakes that could elevate a coin's value exponentially. And when experts evaluate these pieces, they look for every tiny detail: microscopic die markers, unusual rim structures, metal grain patterns, strike pressure inconsistencies, and surface anomalies that only high magnification tools can detect, because any combination of rare factors can turn a coin from interesting to extraordinary, and extraordinary coins fetch extraordinary money, which is exactly why the idea of a 1981 1 cent being worth $26 million doesn't sound far-fetched to serious collectors who understand that rarity, historical context, and error complexity are the three pillars that define extreme value in numismatics, and the 1981 cent checks all three boxes when the right anomalies are present, because not only does it belong to a period of mint experimentation, but it also represents the end of an era for the classic bronze composition. And when something marks the end of an era while also potentially embodying mistakes from both the old process and the emerging new process, the coin becomes a bridge between two different chapters of minting history. And coins that serve as bridges are prized more than regular productions because they are physical records of the moment when old tools, old metals, and old procedures were being phased out and new ones were being tested, and the blending of those processes opens the door to all kinds of unique errors, from broad strikes caused by collar malfunction to incomplete planchet plating caused by irregular preparation to double dies created when a die received multiple impressions in slightly mismatched positions, creating ghost-like doubling that collectors go crazy for. And in the case of the 1981 cent, die doubling on key features like the date, the letters of liberty, or even Lincoln's profile could drastically increase value, especially if combined with other anomalies such as uneven strike depth, die cracks shaped in rare patterns, or planchet issues like lamination errors where pieces of the metal flake or separate due to incorrect bonding, and these types of errors, when found together on a coin from a transitional year, create a perfect storm of rarity. And rarity is exactly what fuels the multimillion-dollar valuation. But the story doesn't stop there, because some collectors have speculated that a handful of 1981 cents could potentially exist as mule errors, meaning they were struck using a front die from one year and a back die from another year. And while mule errors are among the rarest mistakes in all of numismatics, their value frequently hits astronomical levels, because they represent catastrophic mismatches that should never occur under proper procedures. And if even one authentic 1981 mule cent were confirmed, especially if paired with an unusual metal composition, severe die misalignment, or documented mint provenance, its value could easily surpass tens of millions, and that possibility alone has fueled worldwide excitement, inspiring collectors to scrutinize their coins with jeweler's loupes and digital microscopes, looking for any sign of doubling, misalignment, unusual coloration, abnormal weight, planchet cracks, reprocessed surfaces, repunched mint marks, or anything else that sets the coin apart from the tens of millions of ordinary ones produced that year. And what keeps the story alive is that new errors are still being discovered from time to time, because as collectors dig deeper into old hoards and inherited collections, more unusual variations appear, some of which even experts had never catalogued before, and every new discovery adds to the belief that somewhere out there, a single 1981 cent exists with the perfect, unbelievable combination of errors, enough to justify a value of $26 million or even more, because when extreme rarity meets extreme collector demand, the sky is the limit, and that's why enthusiasts everywhere continue checking their coins, hoping that the next incredible discovery is waiting right in the palm of their hand. And if you love stories like this and want to keep exploring the world of rare coins, unexpected treasures, and hidden value inside everyday pocket change,